A pleasant day to everyone. Today our group we're going to discuss about theories in analyzing short story defense by Jose Garcia Villa. So without further ado, let's start. First, let's talk about the author. Jose Garcia Villa was born on August 5, 1908 and died in New York City on February 7, 1997. He used the pen name De Veglion, which was a combination of the words dove, eagle, and a lion, and was what he believed was his true persona. He is a Filipino poet, literary critic, short story writer, and a painter. He attended the University of the Philippines and was awarded the National Artist of the Philippines title for literature in 1873, as well as the Guggenheim Fellowship in Creative Writing by Conrad Aiken. Next, let's go to his literary works. Villa's first notable work is The Anchor Angel. Second is The Emperor's New Sonnet, a blank page poem and one of his visual poems that forgo the world entirely. And lastly, his Footnotes Youth in 1932.
What is theory all about? So I make it short. Feminism is the belief in full social, economic, and political equality for women. Feminism largely arose in response to Western traditions that restricted the rights of women. Throughout most of Western history, women were confined to the domestic sphere while public life was reserved for men. In medieval Europe, women were denied the right to own property, to study, or to participate in public life. Feminist theory is the extension of feminism into theoretical, factional, or philosophical discourse. It aims to understand the nature of gender inequality. It examines women's and men's social rules, experiences, interests, course, and feminist politics in a variety of fields, such as anthropology and sociology, and other themes often explored in feminist theory, especially sexual objectification. In doing so, feminist theory shines a light on social problems, trends, and issues that are otherwise overlooked or misidentified by the historical dominant male perspective within social theory. In addition, the purpose of using a feminist lens is to enable the discovery of how people interact within system and possibly offer solutions to confront and eradicate oppressive systems and structures. It considers the lives experiences of any person, not just women, within an emphasis on operation. So, it is quietly simply, feminism is all about genders having equal rights and opportunities. It is about respecting diverse women's experiences, identities, knowledge, and strengths, and striving to empower all women to realize their full rights. It's about learning and understanding the ways that inequality affect women and men, and we're all in this together, no one behind. It also an interdisciplinary approach to issues of equality. It reflects a history or different struggles, and the term has been interpreted in fuller and more complex ways as understanding has developed. What kind of people and what kind of situation they would be in, and symbolic of how their occupants act and feel for each other. So in the story signifies the walls that hindrance and separates even family or relatives. The decaying feeling in the heart towards forgiveness. Because they're also the great hatred exerted by both of their hearts, acting as a barrier that prevents from forgiving one another. It demonstrates the implications of hatred in one's daily lives and able to convey to us the intensity of the character and animosity for one another, because why would you waste your time hating someone? We only have one life, and hatred is not anything worth wasting a lifetime on. We are equal. Highlighted is that our actions have consequences, and it is unhealthy to carry grudges when those consequences are adverse. It has deeper moral reasons revolving between the main character, which in this case are two neighboring women. The people who live both houses do not get along with each other very well. Their attitudes reflect the remoteness and emptiness of their location.
So, how and why did the theory of feminism begin? So, feminist theory emerged from the struggle for women's rights, beginning in the 18th century with Mary Wollstonecraft's publication of A Vindication of the Rights of Women. So, A Vindication of the Rights of Women is one of trailblazing works of feminism. Wollstonecraft's work argued that educational system at her time deliberately trained women to be frivolous and incapable. She posited that an educational system that allowed girls the same advantages as boys would result in women who would be not only exceptional wives and mothers, but also capable workers in any profession. Other early feminists had made similar pleas for improved education for women, but Wollstonecraft's work was very unique in suggesting that the betterment of women's status be affected through such political change as the radical reform of national education system. Such change, she also concluded that it would benefit all society. The first wave of feminism took place in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, emerging out of an environment of urban industrialism and liberal socialist politics. The goal of the wave was to open up opportunities for women with a focus on suffrage. So, the first wave of feminism was period of feminist activity and thought that occurred during 19th and 20th century focused on the women's suffrage. So it probably focused on probably the legal issues, primarily on securing women's right to vote, also striking down conversion laws and gaining access to education and employment.
Two major proponents of the theory, Mary Wollstonecraft. Wollstonecraft was an English writer and a passionate advocate of educational and social equality for women. She called for a betterment of women's status through such political change as the social reform of rational educational systems. She is seen as a founder of feminism due to her 1972 book titled A Vindication of the Rights of Women, which she argues for women's education. Wollstonecraft was one of the first truly modern women, at least in 21st century sense, as the first real feminist advocating a utopia in which people of all genders are equal. She was truly the forerunner for debates which still occur today. Frederica Grammer, a Swedish writer, was a novelist and a mystic who also wrote on socialism and on feminism. She studied American culture and the position of women on her American trip in 1849 to 1851 and wrote about her impressions after returning home. Bremer was interested in contemporary political life and social reform regarding gender equality and social work, and she was active both as an influential participator in the debate of women's rights as well as a philanthropist. Politically, she was a liberal who felt sympathy for social issues and for the working class movement.
Feminist literature is fiction, non-fiction drama or poetry which support the feminist goal in establishing and defining equal civil, political, economic, and social rights for women. It often identifies women's role and unequal to those men, particularly as regarding status, privilege, and power, and generally portrays the consequences to women, men, families, communities, and societies as undesirable. So this writing, like the poetry, fiction, and non-fiction, supports or provide goals in defining or defending equal political and civil, economical, and social rights for women. So basically, it's all about the right to protect individuals, freedom from infringement by the government to participate in the civil and political life in society without any discrimination and repression. Also, it includes the ensuring of people physical and mental integrity, like life and safety. Through literature, feminism has become more than just a movement for women's rights. Through initially working equality of genders, modern feminism tries to undo patriarchy and gender rules altogether. Its goals range from removing male domination in professional careers to completely rejecting men from home. Feminism has evolved into more than just a women's rights movement through literature. Modern feminism seeks to abolish patriarchy and gender roles entirely, beginning with efforts to achieve gender equality. Its objectives range from ending male dominance in professional careers to completely removing men from the home. How can one be able to identify what literary theory to prevalent in a short story? Give at least 5. There's a 5 techniques that I can share to you. 1. When it tells the main though of the theory. So, if when it tells the main though of the theory, we can identify what is the message contained in the story or in an essay. 2 is identify the characteristic of feminism. To identify the characteristic of feminism is important because it's helped to give advocacy and importance of women's rights on the ground of the gender equality. Because being a feminist means that you fight for the equality of all people. It's important that your feminism is intersectional. It should not exclude people based on their gender, race, socioeconomic status, ability, or sexual orientation. Feminism allows people to look at the world not as it is, but how it could be. Number 3 is to analyze the story while reading. To analyze the story while reading is important so we can understand what is being meant in the story or how the author expressed his or her viewpoints. Number 4 is understand what literary theory is being focused by the author. We need to understand what being focused because in literary theory consists of various principles, beliefs, and underlying ideas that are used to understand and analyze different pieces of text in literature. An interesting way to view literary theory is by considering theories as tools. Number 5 is determine the indication of the author on what literary theory is being conveyed in the short story. Determining and indicating the author's literary theory is very necessary, as the fact that through this it can help the readers know why such theory is used or conveyed in the story. Not only that, but it also gives both the author and his text a voice, allowing works of all genres and topics to be shared and expressed in such a unique way that are so meaningful and memorable, intriguing, and different of all.
Story of the story Feminism. Defense by Jose Garcia happens in two houses, Nipa houses, and in a roadside. The story is all about how the two characters hated each other and showing too much pride. The hatred started from Oman, who is the husband of Aling Biang, which have been caught cheating with his neighbor Aling Sibia, a widow. When Aling Biang caught the two, she cannot forgive them, so she didn't build a fence which reflect of their unwillingness to forgive. The time comes when Aling Sibia delivers a child and Aling Biang is just a person who can help. This is also a chance of reconciliation, but after she Aling Biang, the pride and anger is still there. Their hatred goes on like a course and the children of two grow unhealthy and ugly. Aling Biang's child falls in love with Aling Sibia, but the mother of the king, the unhealthy child of Aling Biang, don't want her child to be close with Aling Sibia's daughter who loves music. He fell in love with the music of the girl and wanted to hear it until the note is done. But Iking died before the note is done and been played after his death. But the Aling Biang finds the playing of guitar murky and ugly, and the death of her son never softens her heart. The fence is still there and remains straightened. So the story is all about the hatred of two women that started with betrayal. The fence means that they will not forgive each other, and the hatred becomes coarse that even the children of them was affected. Though the children wanted to be good friends, but their parents do not wanted it to happen. Even when the child of one character is dead, she still strengthens the fence she had. I'm talking about her pride, anger, and hatred that even the death of his son cannot make her heart soft. So Aling Biang's husband had an affair with neighboring friend Aling Sibia. At some point, Aling Biang found out about it. As a result, the fence's construction was instigated. The bamboo fence served as a malicious boundary between Aling Biang and Aling Sibia. It was also a confinement between Aling Biang's son, Iking, and Aling Sibia's daughter, who is also Iking's half-sister. Due to their mother's childish agendas, the children were restrained the right to know one another. The son of Aling Biang, Iking, was a sickly lad, while the daughter of Aling Sibia was a healthy child who knows how to play the guitar. He would often hear the guitar being played, however, the song was always unfinished. Aling Sibia, on the other hand, represents the people who are weak, those easily tempted by the devil's play by giving into lust, the desires of the flesh. She also symbolizes the figure of betrayal and deception. So the lessons of the story, forgetting the past and forgiving a person who you think has or had been giving you hatred, makes your life more peaceful. Let yourself know about how to forgive others despite of how hard one person did to you. Human beings are liable to make mistakes and errors, but it is higher human quality to forgive mistakes and make room for repentance. If we learn to forgive each other, then we can help foster mutual trust and confidence. In the end, even his death fails to soften her heart and bring the modicum of sensitivity and forgiveness. Defense remains as formidable as before. The story leaves reader with many questions. So, there are reasons why most things be engineered in certain ways to stories we read, and those are to teach us valuable lessons about the reality and harness of life, as well as to awareness on how to avoid conflicts and provide solutions.
Number 1. Aling Biang couldn't forgive Aling Sibia too. Does not seem to be sorry, as she shows the same anger and hatred as Aling Biang. The husband flees silently and never returns. He is a part of the mess, but he did not solve it. Aling Biang couldn't forgive Aling Sibia. It is because Aling Biang cuffed her husband with their neighbors. Aling Sibia was a childless widow who showed a lack of guilt and remorse at her actions. And when she couldn't forgive, it means that there was something in the heart of Aling Biang, the pain, anger, and hatred to Aling Biang that she cannot forgive. In this situation, instead, the husband of Aling Biang will help to solve the problem, but sadly, his husband flees silently. The husband of Aling Biang left after his misdemeanor was cuffed, and his wife did not bother to pursue after him. Number 3. When a king first sees the girl through the decaying fence, his heart is captured by her. Aling Biang tries to instill enmity in Iking's heart, but he exhibits calm resistance. He even begins sleeping beside the door, where he can hear the girl playing the guitar. In this scene, love is a very powerful thing that takes control of the person that's in love. Love can change people or the way people handle different situations for the better, and especially love can do anything. There is nothing that love cannot do. Just like the situation of Viking, even there has a fence that separated both of them, and her mother tries to instill enmity in his heart, but he finds ways. He begins sleeping beside the door just to hear the girl playing the guitar, and that is love, right? We can do anything because of love.